We are here at the Nets' absolutely gorgeous offices in Brooklyn with General Manager Sean Marks, and appreciate all you guys being with us. I know it's been an active summer and we're getting closer to the start of the season, and everybody who's associated with the organization always appreciates the growing support and passion that all of you show, and excited to get to delve into some of what Sean and his team have been putting together this summer and what we have to look forward to this season and beyond. So I guess, Sean, I'll just start with this. For your whole squad and your whole team, your goals going into this summer, what were they, and were you guys able to meet what you were hoping to achieve with this offseason?
Yeah, I think with our goals that we set forth from a basketball operations standpoint, I think we achieved what we wanted to walk out of here summer with. Look, we can always debrief and say, could we have done something better, and could we have gone about it a different way, and that's part of the business here. But at the end of the day, you're never sure what's going to be thrown our direction. So something I am proud of is how the group was able to pivot and navigate a draft and a free agency that can go in many directions, and it can go pretty quick. So our group did a nice job of really collaborating and discussing. It starts a year. Go back a year, that's kind of when you're starting to talk about what could be thrown across our board and what should we prepare for and so forth. So I think our group did a nice job there, and again now it's back to the drawing board on the next year and two in front of us.
I think that people always use the phrase like plan A, plan B, the good thing is they have a plan C, plan D. I mean, how tangible is that when you guys are preparing? Do you actually have sort of like listed out? I always picture it on a whiteboard, but do you have like listed out, okay, if this happens, then we have these possibilities. If this happens, because as you said, it happens so quickly when it comes to free agency. Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of that starts with sort of the role playing that we do as an office. We're often caught in there in the dog days of January or December or wherever it is, saying, okay, well, what if this happened? You play the role of Team X, and let's see where we go with this. And I think that's inevitably helped us navigate again the sort of the ups and downs and the turbulence that is the NBA. So again, you never know. I mean, things can happen really quickly. It's about having obviously a plan A. But again, your plan B, for instance, we always go back to sort of the Otto Porter situation. That to use that as an example, he got matched. We didn't end up with Otto Porter. It was never about, oh boy, we got $100 million. Let's go spend it somewhere else. That was the guy that we had targeted as being a system fit, culture fit, somebody that we wanted to be part of our group. It obviously didn't work out for us, and he's remained in Washington. But again, it was okay. Plan B for us did not involve another free agent in that particular instance. Mm-hmm. So.
Now, when you've been here about 2.5 years now, and I think a lot of people, they look towards this date and they said, okay, 18, 19, that's when Nets have their own picks. That's when we get out from things that were done in the past, and the trade of the Celtics and everything. And there was a lot of questions about how are you going to restore the assets? How are you going to be in a position so that it's not just waiting for those 2.5 years to go by?
Yeah.
It feels like you guys have done a really good job of building a young core and compiling some draft assets as well. When you sit here today, 2.5 years in, how do you feel about the way you guys were able to navigate this period getting to this point compared to maybe what you were expecting when you came into the job?
Yeah, well, one of our goals that you alluded to earlier in the discussion was just to stay patient and to have that level of, look, do the work, be prepared. We never know where it's going to be, where it's going to go. But again, let's not try and fast track this. Let's not skip steps along the way. Make sure every decision we make is at least we've tried to be as strategic as possible. And yeah, look, there's no question. We like the young group that we've got right now. We've been able to go out there and get some young draft guys and develop them. Our coaching staff has done a terrific job with the guys, but also the veterans that we've targeted along the way here, and they've played a role. You go back to the first year here when we had a guy like Randy Foye in here. Like, people forget that the veterans that have played a role in building this and helped build us have all played a pretty substantial role in helping develop those young guys along the way. And that's no different to the vets that we've got in there right now.
And one of those vets is Jared Dudley, and instantly, just hearing his commentary on coming to Brooklyn, it seems like he's a guy who is ready to embrace that role, who fits Kenny's system and obviously on the floor. But immediately, it seems like he wants to have that kind of influence on D'Angelo, on Jared Allen, and some of your other guys.
Yeah, I think it's really important that, whomever the vet is that comes in here is humble enough to know that, look, we're in a building franchise here. It's not always going to be about wins and losses for us. It's going to be about development along the last couple of years here. And at that same point, you better be ready to go because, Kenny wants, all of us, we want a group here that's going to be competitive. We're going to demand it from everybody. It doesn't matter. There's nothing given to anybody. As you've heard our group mention, Kenny and myself, over the course of the last 2 years, there's never been he's our starting X. It doesn't matter. You deserve it. You put the work in, and in practice and in summers, right now. That's where the dividends pay off, and you'll be rewarded, and you'll be the one playing out there.
Now, we have a lot of questions from you guys who are listening, so we're going to sprinkle in some of them throughout this call with Sean. The first one will come from Albert Gwendy from Brooklyn, who has been a season ticket holder for 5 seasons. Thank you, Albert. And his question is this: how do you plan on showing prospective free agents for next year what we are in Brooklyn, and how can we, meaning the season ticket holders, help pitch them on the beauty of Brooklyn?
Great question, Albert, and that's something that thankfully we have a year to prep for and plan for, and like every free agency starts, 2019's free agency's already begun, right? So in terms of looking at your cap and how you're going to fill out your roster wise, and who the pending free agents may be, and so forth. To sell Brooklyn, I don't want to say it's easy, but for those that have been around Brooklyn and been a part of this borough and this market, they know what it's all about. I mean, I'm intrigued by it. I love it here. So for me personally, look, I can't wait to come to work every day and be in this city, be amongst these people. And that's, I guess, to Albert's second piece to it, where you're saying, how can our fans play a role in this? And to be honest, that's one of the key factors of why I was so intrigued about coming here. And I know a lot of our staff, our staff is all pretty much brand new, that comes in here and says, look, I want to be part of something special here. There's going to be nothing like winning in Brooklyn. There's going to be nothing like being able to turn this franchise around and get a group of diehard fans here that, and Kenny has said this in all his press conferences sort of every day. It's like, man, the fans stuck with us. Gosh, that was an ugly game, but man, they were here, they were supporting us, and so forth. And to me, that means an awful lot. It means an awful lot that the group of fans, they can see what we're trying to do. They've showed an incredible amount of patience to hang in there with us. I hope they see the light at the end of the tunnel. I hope they see what we're trying to do. The group of guys that are out there on the court are competitive every night. We're demanding that of them. They demand it of each other. They play a fun style of basketball where, as we've sort of mentioned before, the flashy behind the back passes and so forth, that looks great, and there's a place for that, that flair. But there's also the loose ball rolling on the floor. We better be the team to get that loose ball. There's no excuses why our guys would not be the first to that. They would not be the first to sliding over and taking a charge and supporting each other from the benches and so forth. So it's a lot of the intangibles that I think this fan base demands here. Again, that's what I want to be a part of. That's what our group wants to be a part of. So we're trying to find the players that also fit with this borough, and that'll sell itself.
One of the other things, like when we think about prospective free agents, is the facility here in Brooklyn. And I know, for me, it's ridiculous. Just aesthetically, it's unbelievable when it comes to the actual appliances and the visuals of it. It's gorgeous. And whether it's the offices of the employees here or the basketball operations staff or for the players themselves, the facilities top to bottom are they're amazing. And so, like, I would think, yeah, okay, this is a place I'd want to work. And we've heard free agents like Ed Davis or prospective draftees talk about the impression it's made on them. But you're the one who's actually taking them through the facility and showing them. So I'm wondering, just what has it been like for you, and how real is that feedback from them when they actually experience this facility for the first time?
Yeah, we're all sort of visual creatures by habit, right? So when you walk through this facility in this building for the first time, it's certainly eye-popping, and you can't necessarily duplicate this in other places just due to the nature of where we all stand and where the building sits itself. That shows a complete commitment from ownership. When they're sitting here saying, hey, look, we're going to build what we'd like to think of as the best facility in the NBA and continually update it. And they've showed that commitment year over year. I mean, it's only been available for 2 years, and they're continuing to pour more dollars into it to keep it an elite facility around the world. So that's great. I think one thing I would just sort of add to that would be the caveat of this is the bricks and mortar, and I think that's great and it's very flashy, but that can lack some substance. It can be a really pretty building, but without the people that are inside it, that's what makes this special. So from a staff perspective, from the sweat equity that our coaching staff put in, from all the people that are in the office, from the business side, and basketball operations, I think that's what people sense, there's something different going on there. And it's a very collaborative, very creative approach to it. And look, to be honest, I'm learning things from these guys every day, so I think it's terrific.
And the word that would be associated with that is culture, which we've heard, you focus on from the second you took over, and we've heard people in the building consistently talk about. When you are evaluating who should be a part of this program going forward, how high up on the list is them as a culture fit?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing we've harped on is, the culture from day one, and that's because that's something that we could control. We couldn't control draft assets and free agency and so forth for the last couple of years, but from a culture perspective and what we do inside the building, outside the building, who comes in and out of the building, we can control that, and we can try and build that. And it is a we, it's not an I. This is something that the culture is only as good as the people that are leading it and pushing it and driving it. And that starts obviously with our players, obviously with Kenny and myself, but everybody else. There's nobody here that doesn't have an opinion or can't have a voice in how we can build and grow and continually grow this thing. So culture is absolutely a priority.
All right, next question comes from Marco Prede, who has been a season ticket holder for 4 years. He's from Brooklyn, and he says, we all believe that there's a moment in the future where we will be celebrating a championship win. On that day, how will we evaluate the 2018-19 season? And I'm just going to do my own little spin-off, and I think what Marco's asking is, what role will this year play in building towards that long-term and ultimate goal?
Yeah. Well, I would take almost a step back and look at it like what did 17-18 play, what did 16-17 play, so forth. So, every year, our goals, strategic vision and so forth, and not saying we've been able to achieve everything we wanted to, but, as long as we're staying on that same path and with some little detours here and there and we pivot when we need to, they've all played a role in there. And you would hope that nothing we do this season would jeopardize potentially what happens next summer or the summer after that or the year after that and so forth. So things that we can control this year would be continue to compete. I think that's really important for us. It's important for our current players. They want to go out there and compete. This is not a year where we're going to sit there just because we control our own pick and say, all right, well, let's just hope that pick is as good as it possibly can be.
Right.
I mean, there's other factors at play here. And I think it's really important, and it goes back to the fan base. It's important for the fan base to see that what the trajectory is that we're on here, what we're trying to build here. So I think hopefully we'll look back at this next season and say, look, the development of our guys continued. Coaching staff have done a terrific job there. Development coach have done an amazing job developing our guys so far. That's got to continue. There's no question there. And it should continue for the rest of the history of this franchise. That's a big piece to it. But again, it'll be how our guys compete on a nightly basis, how we've all developed from myself, from Kenny, from the whole coaching staff, front office, we should continue to grow and be molded, and hopefully we're all improving.
This question kind of piggybacks on that from Sam Siegel, who's been a season ticket holder for 13 years from Manhattan, says, do you think winning more this year compared to the past couple of years is important in attracting free agents next offseason as well as for the development of your existing players?
Yeah, absolutely. And something we're very, I think, look, all pro teams are cognizant of would be you never want to have a losing culture here. Sometimes you can't change it. You have nothing to do with that. But at the end of the day, for us, it's about taking the right steps, continue to grind, continue to stay true to who we are. Look, we've got a competitive group of young guys. They all know what's ahead of them with plenty of free agents on our own roster. I mean, they know that this is a big year for a lot of them here, and to me, that's intriguing. That's exciting as to how they continue to compete and develop. Which again, if you're competing, you're trying to win games.
I mean, Sean, is it easier to when you go out next year and you guys have the cap space that you could, is it easier to go out and recruit free agency for saying like, hey, look at the way we built these wins over the last couple of years and where we're going, if you're coming off a year where you feel like you've had some growth in that department?
I think that's certainly a factor that could be played in here. Look, we know that can be natively used against us as well from other sides. If we don't show the trajectory that we hope and stuff on the build that we hope. But again, our goal is certainly to go out there and put our best foot forward, compete on a nightly basis, look at ways we could have improved from last year and the year before. That's on staff as just as much as players. It's all of us looking here how we can improve.
Now, this question kind of is along the same lines, but I want Simon Huang to get his time. So, 2-year season ticket holder from Whitestone, New York, and he says, what is the free agency plan for 2019, and are you pursuing talent via free agent market or trade market?
Well, Simon, without divulging everything to you on this phone call, yes. So that again, that goes to where you have to be creative in the approach to free agency. Like, look, if we're going to all our eggs in one basket, we're saying this is the guy we're going to go get, and we hope to get him, or whatever it may be, and you don't get him, you better have that plan B and C and so forth that you alluded to before. The other piece to it is, as we navigate this next season, we'll have a better idea of how things are going and so forth, how our own guys are developing and so forth. And you never know what turns we may take. I mean, there's plenty of different dates throughout the season that we need to get through. I mean, obviously, let's just work through training camp, and then you've got December 15th dates, trade deadline, and draft, and so forth. So things can take some different forms here on how we build this thing. So I would not say, hey, look, it's entirely predicated on summer 2019. I mean, there could be some different avenues throughout the year that we take.
Big-time season ticket holder for 21 seasons, Bruce Hirschfield from Brooklyn, New York, has a question, and it's this. He says, Spencer had a great first half up to the All-Star break. When D'Angelo came back, it seemed like Spencer had some trouble finding his rhythm, shooting and passing. Will you play them together this year or look for a different combination?
I think that's something over time we'll figure it out. I mean, the guys are upstairs even now playing together, and just again, it's those unscripted conversations that the two players themselves are having. It's not necessarily something that Kenny and his coaching staff can force. They'll certainly look at different combinations of who's playing on the court at the right time, who fits better. I mean, we did the same thing in San Antonio, and you could argue that Manu Ginobili is the greatest sixth man ever, right?
Yeah.
But he was probably starting on 28 different teams. So there's a lot of different combinations that we can go with our group and how they get along. But I think the bottom line is we've got high character guys that want to compete and want to compete together. So I don't see an issue with those two.
And with Spencer, he's one of those guys. Again, a testament to the development here. How did his development kind of compare to maybe what you thought was possible for him when you guys brought him in here? Yeah.
Well, so there's a couple of factors that went into Spencer. I think our performance team did a really terrific job with him. and he bought in. You got to give Spencer a lot of credit here, because there's no one coach or one performance team member or one scout that can take all the credit here. The player has to buy into what you're saying. Hey, look, you could be this. If you do this, how about this? But Spencer certainly had some intangibles that made him stand out, from a size, from a speed, from an athletic ability standpoint. Those are some nice things to start with. And then when he buys into a development system that the coaching staff have put in there and the performance team, it's pretty simple and pretty easy to see why he had and continues to have the success that he's having, because he's putting in the work.
Thank you for that question, Bruce. We will move on to Michael from the city, New York, New York. He's been a season ticket holder for 7 years. Tricarico, I think is how we say his last name. And his question is, in what area will the Nets be most improved this season, Sean?
I think something we've talked about a lot, which will be, again, competing, be in games right till the end, and being able to close out games. I think that's something our players have said, that they're getting accustomed to playing with each other in those moments. You heard Karras say a couple of times where he said, look, I screwed that up. I had the ball in my hands with 30 seconds to go, and I made the wrong play. But I haven't been in that situation before. So those are great learning tools. You can't implement that in a practice or try and substitute, hey, Karras, you're down 5, here it is, you got 45 seconds to go, what are you going to do, how are you going to play it? If he does it in a real game when it really matters, those are great learning tools for him. So for all our guys, I think those will be, that'll be big. I think for our coaching staff, obviously that's something they would like to be working on, is competing until the end. And again, it goes back to, they want to win more games as well. I mean, like we all do. I mean, that's the greatest thing about our coaches, that they're competitors and they want to win, which is great.
This question comes from Stephen Froelich from Sparta, New Jersey, who's been a season ticket holder for 31 seasons. Says this team has a vision and is not reactionary with their plans. What has been the most unanticipated result so far for you?
Gosh, that's probably a tricky one, because I think we can go back and say, a lot of the things that, whether it's from a draft pick, I think we could look at, both Karras and the first pick we had as a group, and Jarrett the second pick. We were thrilled to have them both there on our board. So that was probably a little bit anticipated, that they unanticipated that they would be there, they would be available to us. Obviously, the development of guys like Spencer, the development of Jarrett. We didn't realize that potentially he was going to be starting in the league as quickly as he did, but for a guy to be thrown into the fire that quick and sort of revel in it and enjoy it, and it's sort of a light bulb went off for Jarrett. So that's terrific to see. I think one of the things is just to see the buy-in. We can talk about the trades and so forth that we've done over the last couple of years, but I think it's been the buy-in from our players, and just how important that level of getting over themselves. There's nobody here that's bigger than anybody else. The fact that people genuinely break bread together and like each other and want to be part of something bigger than themselves, I think that's something I'm obviously very proud of, and I think our group and Kenny is very proud of that, and we hope that continues, for many, many years to come.
Ethan from the Bronx, who's been a season ticket holder for 16 seasons, says, who's in the gym right now working the hardest this offseason and taking advantage of our amazing practice facility?
Yeah, well, that again, that's another great thing, because we don't have to coerce them to be in here and say, look, you guys need to be in the gym. They want to be in. The gym's open 24 hours to them, so there's plenty of guys that are coming in here way after the city lights are dim and so forth, and working out. So they're on their own here. It's really, we want it to be player-led, and I think it's contagious. And something that you and I sort of touched upon before this call was, with social media now, with all these guys posting videos of themselves and saying, hey, I'm in the gym, where are you? That's contagious even amongst their own group of peers on the team, let alone the other teams around the league. So it's not something that just our team's doing. I think everybody's doing it. All pro athletes don't want to be the odd man out. They don't want to be the one guy that's not working out. So guys have had complete buy-in. The devotion from coaching staff and performance staff that are with these guys throughout the summer, if they need be, they're on their beck and call. which is a lot of commitment. So I would say all our guys are in the gym. I think Jared has shown from day one that this summer that he wants to get better. He knows. I think it was probably a little bit of a surprise to him how he's been able to play and so forth. So he's excited about taking his game to the next level. We've seen Karras in the gym a ton, but I could go all the way down through our entire group. And I think what's maybe been a little bit of a surprise, but a pleasant one would be to see Ed Davis, Damari Carroll. These guys have been in the minute Ed got here. He's in the gym, and Damari from the minute the season's over. So. To me, that's great. And again, when your leaders are in there, when your older vets are in there showing the young guys, this is how you do it. Again, it's player-led. You can't ask for more than that.
How much different is that now, Sean, with the NBA today and with your guys' situation here than maybe it was when you were playing or years before that, as far as like that continued engagement goes with players at their facility and practicing, just basically making it a year-round thing for themselves?
Yeah, well, I think two things. One thing we have in our favor would be it's Brooklyn, it's New York. People want to be here. People are fine spending their summers here. There's plenty of things to do. So that we have going for us. All our guys live in Brooklyn, so that's easy. The gym is right here, and I can't see them finding a better gym available for them. So that's great. But it is certainly contagious. I mean, you see from all teams all around the league now where guys are getting their groups together and, hey, look, meet in LA and they're all going there, or meet here and they're all going there, meet in New York and so forth. So guys are going all over the place to be together. And I think they all realize, NBA careers are no longer 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, guys are playing 16, 17, 18. So you're seeing them play longer and longer and longer. And a lot of that work is being done in the off season.
All right, this next question comes from Sherman Yang, who has been a season ticket holder for 8 seasons from Jersey City. Says, what parts of D'Angelo, Jarrett, and Karras' games would you want them to improve most?
Well, I would say this. With those guys, they're young, they're very malleable, they want to get better in all aspects. I don't want to limit them and say you can only improve here, or there. If you look at a guy like D'Angelo, his big focus this off season and even towards the end of last season was purely his health and his body and getting that right when he's recovered from that knee surgery. So his thing is being able to be robust and be able to sustain an NBA season and be out on the court. That's going to be paramount for him. So as he moves forward, he needs to create those habits and take care of his body. And I think people will be pretty surprised when they see what he's done. I mean, he's worked extremely hard this off season on purely that, on strengthening up his body and so forth. Jarrett, I would never want to limit him because I don't want to see. I would like to see where he can go. I think, for him, it's all about confidence. It's are we going to see him step out and hit corner threes? Sure, potentially, but he needs to be a great rim protector, shot blocker, and rebounder. So the rebounding aspect for Jarrett is an area where he's going to really have to improve on, really make his mark. When you're that long, you're that athletic, and that'll come with adding strength. So, he's getting there. His strength is coming. A guy who's, 20 years old, we can expect big things for him for years to come.
How about this question from Marcia Kellum, who has been a season ticket holder for 7 seasons, is from Brooklyn, and says, what is your vision, and where do you see the team in 5 years?
Well, I think somebody earlier, and I think it was Marco, said hopefully we'll be celebrating a championship.
That's right. That's right.
I think the ultimate goal is for us to be winning, to be competing at a high level. I think for us, obviously, making a playoff push is going to be important. I think we will have established an identity. We're continuing to do that, and that's coming as we bring in, a different group of players. Our draft guys, our young guys continue to develop and so forth. And it really takes on after the Brooklyn grit, the Brooklyn identity that we've talked about and harped upon. Again, look, I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. Who knows? But all I can say is I hope the fan base is proud of the group of 15 guys and what they've been able to achieve over that course of time.
All right. Andrew Saunders has been a season ticket holder for 7 seasons. Is from Brooklyn. And this is something you talked about. His question is something you alluded to earlier with those improving on late games. But he says, how confident are you that we will start winning those many close games we had last season? Who's our star that expects to and wants to take that last shot?
So I would say, yes, I'm confident that our group will improve on that particular aspect. One, I know that our coaching staff is working hard on that, but it's also, again, it comes with the territory. The more whether it's D'Angelo or Karras or Spencer or whoever it may be that has the ball in their hands at that critical point in the game, is making those right decisions. And that comes by purely just getting to play together. The more they're playing together, whether it's in pickup games like that are happening right now in the summertime, the preseason games and so forth, and our coaching staff will be trying to emulate that as much as they can in practice and give them something to go for. In regards to a star, there is no face to the franchise. There is no, this is the one guy that we're going to build around. We're not about that. It's a team sport. I've seen it on, I've been privy to some pretty special teams that, as great as Steve Nash had a career, he wasn't the one that always took the last shot. There was plenty of other times where he was dumping it off to Amari and so forth, or Sean Marion or whoever it may be. As great as Tim Duncan was, he's humble enough to realize, well, Manu Ginobili's wide open. I'm going to pass him the ball in the corner. Or maybe it's a coming up star like a Patty Mills. Hey, I'm going to hit him with the ball because why would I force a contested shot? So, I think our group playing together, we realize what's important to us is how we want to play the game, not necessarily, hey, the ball's in one guy's hands, he's got to create for us. There are some level of stars around the league that can do that. I think for us, where we stand right now, it's going to be about how the team plays together and having that unselfish play amongst themselves.
One of the guys you brought back is Joe Harris, and I feel like he's such a good story for you guys because here's someone who, maybe was an afterthought in this league, who's turned into such a consistent performer. He gets rewarded from you guys financially this offseason as well. Is there a part of you that, when you guys sign off on that contract, that feels just this sense of gratification for him as well, that he earned this and he's turned his career into what it is?
Yeah, no, 100%. And Joe really epitomizes what we're all about here and the hard work that he's put in. I mean, we talk about guys working out in the summer. Joe is definitely one of the leaders in that category. He continues to work hard and wants to improve his game in all aspects. And look, I think he's one of the only guys that takes the subway to work. So it's pretty intriguing. I remember seeing him the day after, he had signed the deal, and he was walking across the parking lot over here, baseball cap on and headphones in and high-fiving workers as he just, and that's Joe. I mean, that's who he is. And to be honest, I was very proud witnessing that. I was in a car driving by, and I was like, we made the right decision. So that was terrific there to see Joe do that. Again, I think our coaching staff, from our scouts that sort of said, Joe Harris is the guy, we should be looking at him, when we first brought him in, from our coaching staff that helped develop him and so forth. It's hard not to sort of want to overpay for people like this. But, when you get a guy like Joe who could have gone elsewhere for more money, I mean, that's probably the piece that's not written about. That makes us feel pretty special, that a guy here who's saying, hey, look, I appreciate what you guys have done, but I want to come back and I want to help you guys build this and not give up on Brooklyn. I mean, he's here and he wants to be part of it, which is great.
How helpful is he as an example too for other guys that you bring in here when you guys are trying to sell what you can do for their individual careers?
Yeah, no, there's no question there. Especially, we've had those discussions, and it's not just Joe; it's a lot of our guys that have made that jump in how they're playing. And agents want their guys around our coaching staff. They want their guys around our performance team. That they're seeing bodies changing. They're seeing ability realized and so forth. So that's certainly a selling point out there.
Is the performance team available to broadcasters? I'm wondering, we could transform the S Network's bodies this season as well.
Well, you've seen me. They're certainly not available to GMs, so yeah.
All right, here's the last question from our season ticket holders. Ran Zhang, who has been a season ticket holder for one season from New York, says, what's your view on the status of the Eastern Conference, and do you expect the Nets to make it to the playoffs with your current squad?
Well, I think the Eastern Conference, it always flip-flops, right? Every 5, 10, 7 years, whatever it may be, it flip-flops back and forth, and the power moves from west to east, east to west, and so forth. And, obviously with, a couple of moves this year, one would say that, okay, maybe the West even got stronger. So who knows? But there's definitely some teams, especially up the top of the tier in the Eastern Conference that, can and should be vying for championship contention without a doubt. So I wouldn't write anybody off. In the Eastern Conference, there's a lot of great coaches. There's still plenty of star power in the East. I think one thing that's, I'm never going to be the one to sit out here and say, hey, we should be, making a playoff. We should be doing this. We should be doing that. It's great when it's coming from your players. So when our players have done several interviews, including the new guys that we've brought on and said, I don't see any reason why we can't make a push for the playoffs. Isn't that the objective here? We're not sitting here trying to win 20 games. So let's put our best foot forward and push each other and see where it all goes. And anything can happen. You never know where it's going to break.
Well, we're getting closer to seeing where it goes. Already August. Season will be here soon enough. Sean, thank you for doing this.
Pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for all of you who are listening in. Season is just a couple months away, and we always appreciate the support that you have for the Brooklyn Nets. And thank you for all the questions that you guys sent in.